I'll share my screen and I'll start the presentation. Sorry, 1 second. You can see my screen? Yes, I hope so. I hear nothing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, perfect. Okay, I'll start. Well, hello everyone, and thank you very, very much for the invitation. I just wanted to take you through a little bit about our journey with Demo Festival and some pieces of the work that we do here with Motion, and also to tell you a bit of the origin story. So let's go. For a bit about me, I'm a creative director at Studio Dumbar. I have a podcast station on type and design. If you like typography, listen to it. It's good for you. I collect books like crazy, and I would say, a motion cheerleader. So anything that moves, I love it. I'm part of the studio here, Studio Dumbar, and this is relatively an old established studio here in the Netherlands. And we are 19 people, and all our work is about identity and motion. In the group of 19 people, from that group, there is 5 motion designers, visual designers, creative coders, typographers, of course, project managing, operations, strategy, but we all come working together. A few of the highlights of the work we do. We are known for some of the oldest identities here in the Netherlands, such as the Dutch railways, the identity for that. We designed the identity for the Dutch police, or for Transavia, the low-cost airline, and most recently, the identity for the country, for the Netherlands. So when the Netherlands represents the Netherlands abroad, they come out with this, they use this mark. Or projects such as identities for Club Brugge. This is the best team in Belgium. Not as good as the Italian teams, let's be clear. And most recently, identity for Future Natural. This is a new brand from Adidas, where we worked with a team looking at their different motion and developing motion for them. So here's all of us together. I'm this one here. I'm not very good at making these clay things. Other people in the studio are a lot more talented, but anyway. So where are we now, and how does this connect to motion? What we've been working with identities and brands for years. And what you see now, and you've seen in the last few years, all these brands are living completely in a digital realm. They are moving continuously from one media environment to the other, from one device to the other. Nothing is static, and static is really not an option. And I really believe it. Motion, I think, is the answer for a lot of these brands and how they behave and how they evolve. So talking about motion, for us, like you saw a lot of our more iconic works, motion was something we also had to learn within the studio, and educate each other. What does motion mean? So what we did was start with meeting together as a group every 2 or 3 weeks, and we started teaching each other different tools that we knew. And I will show you a few of our research. For example, very simple things with After Effects, simple communication like that. We explored parameters of the screen, because it's not only what you see in the screen, but how does it react to the edges of the screen. even looking for very basic ways to create motion. And it really doesn't matter from where you start. It can be a simple scrolling technique that creates movement in itself. So we're not so much really dependent on the tools, but really how you can explore almost anything to create motion itself. Here we were looking at how does a screen feel? How do you make it tactile? Or an example like that, or does it become more physical in execution? Experiments with new types of programs. This is cavalry, where you don't need to use data, you don't need to know coding, but still can have the same effect. And here's another example of that. Or using processing, which is these are open source tools, and how can coding affect the motion you do? Here's a clock, for example, we developed. Or drawing even with images. What does that mean? So these are really purely visual experiments, and these experiments help us when we're creating the work we do. One thing is what it looks like in motion, like you see here, like the movement itself. But I mean, as you all know, the behavior of something, how does it actually move, is equally important, like the distinctness of the movement itself. And to be very basic about it, like a simple movement, like this guy is moves in a very relaxed way, almost gentle way, defines his character. Or somebody like this that is very, like moves in a very hard way, that really defines who he is. Or somebody like this who's more chaotic. All these details and movement really can give a personality to the design we make. So if we put it directly into practice, this was an identity for a TV network here. In the Netherlands, it was all about moving closer. So that movement always has that closeness to you. Or for Club Next, the youth football team of Club Brugge, about attack and defend in football. So you have that very sharp movement in it. Or something like NL, the NL branding that we just showed you. It's about growth and the moving upwards. And you can see that movement that comes in it. So we go on to demo and the birth of demo and how that came into practice. In the Netherlands, we see more and more of these screens coming up. So there's like, in the train stations, there's, I don't know, you see hundreds of screens and they're all having this advertising. When they don't play advertising here, they have these, they have screensavers. And these screensavers are shown in between ads. And we were lucky enough to be asked by Exterior Media, who owns these screens, to replace these screensavers with another message. So in between ads, we could show something completely different. And what we did was come up with these city signs. And here you see Rotterdam or Amsterdam. We designed them specifically for the stations. So you can see like here, almost the whole selection. I think we did 20 cities in total. And how we designed this was we designed typography that fits specifically in the screen size. So when you're designing for screen, you need to take care of all the parameters. It's not like you design for 16:9, or you go from YouTube and then it's okay to take that and shrink it and put it on Instagram. You really need to take care of those parameters because it also makes the design a lot stronger. And it fits really, really well within the area you're communicating. So when the project went live, And we saw all this work outside. One, I mean, of course, you're excited. You see your work in a public space. The other was that we were finally showing, you know, instead of just showing advertising, we could show something else in the public space, which meant that we could use the public space in a more interesting way. And the other part of this conversation was that we had such a great opportunity to do this. We also felt like we wanted to share this opportunity with other designers around the world. So we said, okay, if we can share our work on the screens in the Netherlands, why not actually have the world's largest motion design festival? Why not show work from designers all around the world? We had seen amazing work on Instagram, like of motion designers, but nobody was seeing it. It was only within Instagram and only with a few designers, but we really wanted to show it to the rest of the world. Like, let's share the opportunity we have with everyone else. So we asked Exterior Media, and we're lucky enough, they said yes. And our first thought was, okay, let's organize this in Amsterdam Central Station and take over all 80 screens and 4 video walls for 24 hours. So we got permission from the train station and from Exterior Media to have that space and use it to show great work with absolutely no advertising, which was really quite an experience. And the best part was that through that station, there's 250,000 visitors going through, which meant that at least more than, my 10 friends on Instagram could actually see it. So it was a really great opportunity. So first things first, we needed to design what demo looked like. So one thing is to have you have this idea like, oh, let's make a festival, but you also need to design the festival itself. And we had to create an identity for demo, Design in Motion Festival, that lives within all the motion of everybody else. So we started with very basic ideas. If you think of motion and movement, of thinking of what this mark could look like, it started with this very basic thing. Let's try pixel letters, or let's try movement. And all these things are nice to do, but also very simple, and maybe a bit too simple, to be honest. Like these movement things, like with design, I think you just try and you need to try certain things regardless if it looks good or not. So we're showing you everything we got rid of. Movement in the letters, movement in form. Then we went off somewhere, I don't know where we went, but also interesting to explore, until we got to this particular tool, which is not commonly used for motion. And it's actually a free program you can just download on your iPhone. And what one of the motion designers found was that you can change the letter or any shape from its core. And that we found this technique quite interesting. It meant that we could do something in motion that hadn't been done before, because this tool also wasn't used before. That we loved it so much, we screen recorded it and replicated that back to the design of demo. And we created a grid, because if you're that continuously moves, because if you are designing, I think for motion, your grid or your system, your shell is also moving. So everything we put here moved. And here you see a few sketches of the mark. And then started to develop this identity further. And you see how it slowly progressed. We tried colors and whatever, and made things a bit too complicated, almost unnecessary, with textures, till we came to this solution, which was the most basic and most blunt way to say demo. And also in a way because we wanted for it to stand out from all the sophisticated motion that we would show in that space. We created an entire alphabet that always moves. The logotype moves. The characters move. So whenever you put your mouse over, demo moves, even on your phone. So the identity was complete, and then we needed everybody to send their work. Because if you think that you have 80 screens and you can show work for 24 hours, that is a crazy amount of work that you need to fill in. This was a show reel we made to attract people to send in work. We were, and I will show it, and I'm not sure how well it plays over Zoom, but I'll play it for a little while. Anyway, but to save you from the, maybe it's not looking very good on the other side. So the trailer went out and it generated 2,700 submissions from 900 designers from 70 countries. And this was, for us, for the first time to organize something like this, it was really, really unbelievable. Like, we didn't expect to have a response like that, and from so many countries. And what I loved so much is that we could bring so many people together from all over the world. So we made a selection. We showed 400 pieces on that day. And just to see a few highlights of the station that completely transformed into this living motion gallery. And it really showed like what a big difference you can have in a public space. And we don't, I think we forget about it because it's so, advertising is so much always there that we really forget that it's there. But once you transform it, that really makes a big difference. And here's a glimpse of it, and I'll just play a clip for you to see how the whole station changed. We had guided tours showing people the different work that you see. We had free talks, also of designers that were showing work, and really did our best to bring the whole community together. So that was the beginning of Demo Festival. And of course, the big question is, will there be a next one? And yeah, since the last 2 years, we weren't able to arrange a public event here, but yeah, fingers crossed, hopefully in the future, we can do that. And I think there is a little bit more time. I can show you one more project of a festival we're currently working on. And also that is motion related, just for you to understand. So I'll show you that. And then if there's any questions, you can go for it. And that's for D&AD. And D&AD is a design and art direction organization in the UK. And they were organizing the Festival of Creativity, which they called Imagine Everything. So if you have actually a festival called Imagine Everything, the biggest question is where do you start with that question? So obviously you need to ask yourself, what is Imagine? And that was quite hard for us because Imagine is really, it could be everything and anything, but what we defined it as is Imagine is really the beginning of that idea. It's really, if you say imagine, it feels very, very solid. And then you say that word imagine, and then from there you start thinking of everything else. And then the next question is, what is everything? How do you define everything? So if you're creating a festival of creativity and you think of imagine everything, you still need to say, what is everything? And how we defined everything is more like when you think of, I love you till the end of the world. You know, there's that endlessness, that there is no, it just never, ever, ever stops. So we needed to bring that together for the identity. So we have this imagine that is very fixed, and then everything just comes out of it and stretches as long as possible. So you have really that length, and it's through motion, I think, that it best describes it. And this became the core of the identity itself. So we had imagine everything, and we're in a creative festival. But once you put the proposition of imagine everything, you know very well that imagine everything is not only about design. So this was the trailer that came out.
It's a strange feeling saying your first words a second time.
So that became the identity of the festival. We started with, you know, making all the items for it. And like you do for all these festivals. And the one thing we didn't imagine, because this was the end of 2019, was imagine a pandemic. We imagined everything else, but not a pandemic. The festival was canceled, and everything was transformed digitally. We created face filters for them. We made all their, they had an award, they have an award, all their award and really using this principle of this, always the stable imagine and everything coming out. And this was for their end festival. And then the festival ended, and then we were asked to reimagine everything again. So we were asked the second year round. And that's difficult once you've imagined one thing and then they say reimagine. But our concept for the second year around, and that's for actually 2020, 2021, the concept was continuity, because what we also saw in the last 2 years, yes, they were hard years, but we see how the creative industry really pulled through and continued. And everything that we created in motion had always this line of continuity. You see here in announcements of awards, And of course, the face filters that we also made when the whole thing was live. And I think my time is up. And I want to say thank you.